Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, bringing you the final chapter in my Cryptek tech, and that is bringing you the epic heroes, the characters, the men, the myth, the legends, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be of the Cryptek dynasties. Well, I guess that's kind of loosely because some of them, I mean, Technomancer's pretty good, and regardless, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Turn on the bell for notifications to get notified on all the content that we bring to you here on the channel. So for this one, I wanted to bring you guys the characters, and save the best for last. And honestly, these guys are brutal. Now, after I finish up this section of this, we're going to be going back through some of the vehicles, some of the other units, the destroyers, everything for Necrons. We're going to talk about them and put together some lists, put them on the table, test some stuff out, because after our last battle report, one of these two guys really surprised me. But before we talk about him, we're going to go over to the harder to find model right now, which is one of the big reasons he is not on the channel, Orikan the Diviner, the Orikan man. So Mr. Orikan comes with your basic Cryptek stat line that we've been talking about all the way through this, with the toughness 4, save 4, 4 wounds, leadership 6, objective control value 1, and movement of 5. He's a basic Cryptek, so he can go into any of the same units that we've been talking about before, with Immortals, Lich Guard, and Necron Warriors. And what does he bring to the table? He's got two things. Number one, now, first of all, I want to start off with this guy is 80 points, which is a little pricey considering characters can get expensive over time, and some of our other Crypteks are coming closer to 50. So hopefully what he's bringing is going to be good. Well, it's more than good. As Tony the Tiger said, it's more than good, it's great. He brings a 4-up invulnerable save right off the rip. That is awesome. So whatever you put him in, and I know that a lot of people, for the biggest beneficiary to make these guys see play, because for codex after codex, year after year, one weapon option for Necron units always got put to the side. And it makes me sad, because I personally own 10 pariahs. And for those of you who don't know, way back in 3rd edition, citation needed there was a unit, a metal model that came out that was called the Pariah. And basically, for lore purposes, this was a attempt for the Necrons to try to create a humanoid / robotic body. Now, gameplay wise, these guys kind of sucked. They were like the only thing that didn't have reanimation protocol. So when they died, they died. And they had a decent stat line. They were pretty tough, but because they didn't have the reanimations, they were not good enough. And their point cost was obscene. Cool looking models though. I have 10 of them ready to go. And after the pariahs were removed, the pariahs that still existed as models, a lot of people would use them as Lich Guard with spears. Unfortunately, Lich Guard with shields for many editions just shadowed these guys because of the fact that they had no defense. The only time that I ever was able to use the spear glaive Lich Guard was when you could either tricks with Vanguard O'Brien to be able to teleport across the field and then complete a 1-inch charge. Tricks with the Monolith to do the same. Tricks with the Night Sight to be able to do the same off stratagems. But it was tricks. And then you also need this 100, 200, 300 point unit included into this in order to pull that off. So that wasn't exactly, and I can get from like a gameplay perspective and also a collecting perspective, that isn't what people wanted to see. And they didn't really work too well. And I mean, you could functionally put them on the table, but every time the Lich Guard with sword and board just did better. Orikan makes it so spears are good again. Now, you don't get your feel no pain off your Technomancer that you could get in there, because Orikan will take that spot. That 4-up invuln is huge. That 4-up invuln is huge. There is so much that we have to be able to reanimate on the go, resurrect on the go, and just shrug off hits with still being able to take some crypto thralls and put them in that unit because he is a cryptek by all definitions. So you're able to put a lot of defense down and give your Lich Guard with spears the defense that they needed to be able to fight on the field. And then when we talk about the Lich Guard and what they can do and the damage they can do off those things, it's access to devastating wounds in combat. It's pretty awesome. They're really very, very nasty with Orikan at the helm, or actually just helping out if you decide to throw an Overlord in there too, which is highly recommended. So 80 points though for a 4-up invuln. I mean, honestly, if that was all he gave, I would still say he's a value town, but there's still more. Orikan has a little ability that in my network of friends, we've always said this is going Super Saiyan. And in the past, it's kind of been slightly random. You know, you would try to, you would have to roll and then add the number of the turn. And if your value equaled X, then he would be empowered for that next turn, and then he'd power back down. So what happens when he's empowered? So first of all, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, this model can use this ability. So you don't have to roll anything, nothing crazy, just happens. If you do, until the end of the phase, triple the attack characteristic and strength characteristic of this model's Staff of Tomorrows. And every successful wound roll made for this model scores a critical hit. Now, it's the reason I haven't gone over his weapon yet, because now let's go over to... So this is, first of all, before we jump into it, understand how that affects. You charge or you get charged. And at the start of that fight phase, you say, I'm going to empower him. And now during that next fight phase, Orikan is going to be able to have this big, nasty beat stick profile. What's that beat stick profile going to be with? All right, so Staff of Tomorrows. Staff of Tomorrows has 2 attacks, weapon skill 3, strength 4, AP 3, D3 damage. Now remember, he's going to get that +1 for command protocol, so he's going to be hitting on 2s. During the turn that you decide to empower him, you get triple the attack. So you're looking at 6 attacks, triple the strength 12. And every successful hit is a critical. So just hitting on 2s, all of them are devastating wounds, since the Staff of Tomorrow has devastating wounds characteristic. Every successful wound, I'm sorry, I'm speaking that poorly on there. Every successful wound roll. So now that you have that strength 12, you're going into infantry of a toughness 4 or all the way up to a toughness 6, you're wounding on 2s. And every single one of those wounds is going to be mortal wounds for D3 damage. That is nasty, nasty, nasty mean damage. Love it. So the only reason that I have not run Orikan yet is because I don't have a model for him. I don't have the actual model because he's been out of stock, and I haven't figured out a good conversion for him yet. I kind of feel like I'm just going to be waiting until I can get that model and it gets back in stock to be able to do that. Now, that's Orikan. Orikan is awesome. Units that he can join, again, Warriors, Lich Guard, and Immortals. Immortals probably are the weakest of the choice in there. The only reason that I think that Orikan is not the #1 Cryptek as far as joined units Crypteks, and the Technomancer still goes above him, is simply the fact of what units he can join. The Technomancer pretty much goes great in any unit. Where Orikan, Lich Guard with shields, obviously he's a waste. Immortals, don't feel like the 4-up invuln is really like 80 points for a 4-up invuln on 10 Immortals isn't as much value as it would be to put a 4-up invuln for 80 points on 20 Warriors. So there is some things that it's like with Orikan that don't necessarily have... the 4-up invuln doesn't really bring the value. It's not that it's like, oh, that's terrible, that's bad, we don't need a 4-up invuln. It's when you look at it and he's an epic hero and you get 1 and you put it in a unit, are you going to pick your Immortals or are you going to pick the Warriors? And at the same time too, is it even worth the 80 points to go on those Immortals at that point, just for the sake of it's only 10 guys, 1 wound, T5, 3-up save. There's not as much there to get that 4-up off of. Not downplaying him at all. Immortals just really aren't his home. Where having a feel no pain off a Technomancer, because you can take multiple, a squad of Immortals can still benefit from a feel no pain coming off a Technomancer. So that's our Orikan man. Whether you want to run him with Warriors or Sword or Spear Lich-Guard, he's going to bring some house. I think right now his best home is with this, the Spear Lich-Guards, especially because of his combat power and being able to have that extra combat power to get out of a sticky situation. Being able to get in there and just hit a unit that may hit you hard already and clear those guys out of there to start getting the reanimation train rolling and get the squad of Lich-Guard back up to a reasonably high size, if not full. So that's what I see with Orikan. I said at the beginning when I first read through, I felt he is an auto-include. My opinion has dropped a little bit from him not being necessarily an auto-include to simply just being one of the absolute best characters in the entire Necron book. Now, one of the best. There is one guy who I cannot say that he is one of the best, but he is greatness incarnate. I was completely shocked at how much play is out of this guy, and I'm going to try to condense this as much as I can and talk about him and what he can do and everything, and not make this an hour-long video just talking about how amazing he is. Illuminor Szeras. So Illuminor Szeras is the one who breaks the mold because he has the different profile. First of all, he's got a movement characteristic of 7, toughness 8, a 2-up save, 9 wounds, leadership 6, and an objective control value 3. That OC value 3 is nice considering that he is not joining a unit like other Crypteks. As we said in the past, this guy breaks the mold. He is a lone operative for all intensive purposes, basically. So let's talk about his weapons first. So, in ranged, he has the Eldritch Lance, which I like. I believe last edition it was D3 shots, which kind of made it annoying. Now it's just a flat 3 shots. 36-inch range. He can pick on stuff from a distance. Ballistic skill 3. He is a character himself leading his unit, so hitting on 2s. Strength 9, AP 3, flat 3 damage. Awesome, awesome, awesome resource. And I know, like I said, he is a character, and he is a character leading his own unit, and that's something that GW may need to clarify on it, because right now, rules as written, I mean, he is the character in his own unit. Although he doesn't have the leader capability, which may make it that he doesn't hit on 2s. I think that's probably what they're going with there, so it's kind of ambiguous. I think because he doesn't have leader, so he's not leading, he would then probably only hit on 3s. But still, 36-inch range, hitting from afar is nasty. Now we get over to the melee weapons. He has the Eldritch Lance, again, as a melee weapon. 4 attacks here, same profile otherwise. The Strength 9, the AP 3, and the 3 damage. He also has Impaling Legs for extra attacks, 4 of them. 4 extra attacks. At Strength 6, AP 1, 1 damage. So, right off rip, Szeras can wreck some stuff. And that was what I was surprised by. During mine and Lane's matchup, he dropped in the heavy intercessors with their toughness 6 intercessors. Incursors, the jump infantry guys. Drop them in, 3 wounds, toughness 6, and Szeras just goes, get off my lawn. I'm a grumpy old man, and I don't like you on my backyard. Get off my lawn, you silly kids. And he just cleared. And he went on to take out the big land speeder, too. So Szeras by himself, like, some people will look and go, oh, okay, one character back there. He really can wreck some stuff and really just hold down that backfield great and late into the game. So his abilities. Number 1, which I absolutely love, he's got a 4-up Feel No Pain and a 4-up Invuln. So we were looking at a guy with a 2-up, 4-up, 4-up. Amazing. Amazing. So first of all, any of your high AP damage, he's going to clear it 50% of the time. And then the damage, he's going to knock 50% of that off half the time. He's tough to take down. He is really tough to take down. And speaking of being tough to take down, he is an infantry character. When he dies, you can spend a command point, and he stands back up the first time with half of his wounds remaining. It's silly. He's so hard to take down. All right. So what does he bring to the table? Because this guy is 220 points. And we don't just need him as a beat stick. What else is he doing? So, first of all, the Illuminor. While this model is within 3 inches of one or more friendly Necrons, the model has lone operative. Any Necron unit. So a Ghost Arc, a Doom Scythe, a Doomsday Arc, a single Overlord, Scarabs. He's got lone operative. Awesome. So he's got a little self-protection there. Mechanical augmentation. While a friendly Necron battle line unit, key battle line, so warriors and immortals. While a friendly Necron battle line unit is within 6 inches of model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. And each time an attack targets this unit, worsen the armor penetration attack by 1. This guy gives an aura of Armor of Contempt, and anyone who plays Marines or plays against Marine knows Armor of Contempt is huge. It's one of those ones that when you go to Vex or use an ability to increase the command points, Armor of Contempt is a hot target for those things. And he's just like, here, I don't need to spend CP on it. Let me just make this an aura. And everyone around me that's battle line, battle line, battle line, battle line. So Necron Warriors and Immortals gets that boost. Now, granted, Warriors only have a 4-up save. Still, you can get cover. Since Necron Warriors do have a 4-up save, that cover brings them up to a 3-up. So now we're looking at, that really is defensive, and especially Immortals too. Immortals have a 3-up save. So that's huge. As 6-inch aura, the unit doesn't need to be wholly within, so you just need a guy that's within there. And then the kicker is too, this isn't like combat or shooting. This is all the time. So when these guys fight in combat, you're giving them AP1 on their close combat weapons just for being near Szeras. Great. That's great. I would say great on the defense more than anything else. So when your warriors get hit by something, they're like, okay, well, you have no AP. I can at least wade through it. Go, haha, I do have AP. I have AP1, so I might be able to start doing some chip damage to you and start kicking some Marines off my face. And last of his abilities, he has Atomic Energy Manipulation. At the end of the fight phase, if this model destroyed one or more models this phase, this is fight phase, until the end of the battle, add 3 inches to the range of mechanical augmentation. So if he gets into combat and he kills something in combat, and the kicker is if he destroys one or more models. So all he has to do is kill a single model, and it increases by 3. And the funny thing about this is the way it's worded, there really is no cap. The only cap to it is you can only do this once per at the end of each fight phase. So once per fight phase. So you could do it once during your fight phase, once during your opponent's fight phase. If you remained in combat and killed a single model, then you increase it by 3. So now that augmentation goes from a 6-inch aura to a 9-inch aura, and now start just spreading your army out much, much bigger and being able to hold that later into it. The only issue I see with it, while it seems really cool, and it'd be really cool to boost that, if your opponent's getting close enough to charge and fight Szeras, you probably are close enough to Szeras that you don't need that extra range. So that ability, while it's cool and seems awesome and fun on paper, it doesn't really seem like it's going to be that useful in the long run. Number one, you're going to want Szeras to stay near things to keep his lone operative ability triggered. And with battle line units being the ones that get the buffs, he's probably going to want to stay near some Necron warriors or immortals. So I don't see it being a scenario where having a 9 or 12-inch range on the aura is really going to make it that huge. But it is something to keep in mind, because there are going to be those scenarios where, like in the game that me and Lane played, which don't think it played into it, didn't really kick into it. But because I was able to kill units in the fight phase, I started extending that range. And now units that are further away and are trying to hold on to objectives over Terminators, et cetera, are going to be able to pick that up a little bit easier because of the range. So there is some one-off scenarios where the boosted range increase really could come in handy. All in all, though, it's not a piece that you're teching and planning for and going, okay, so I need Szeras to kill a model to increase this range so my entire combo can go off. It's more of a supplementary buff that when it happens and you remember it, that's the key, is remembering it. Then you go and flip and go, okay, I got this guy at 9 inches now. Then you kill another model during your opponent's fight phase and go, boom, now I'm at 12 inches. Okay, so I have a 12-inch aura off a very large circular base. And this unit that's going to fall back, oh, you're overwatching me with AP1 weapons? No, those are going to be AP0 now because they're just within 12 inches of Szeras. He is awesome. He is seriously awesome. 220 points. I don't even mind. He's coming up on the painting desk as soon as I get done with all my work with Grey Knights. He is going to be, I'm going to be seeing a lot more love. There is going to be a lot more love for Szeras, especially on this channel, and a lot more love for him in 10th edition. The amount of work he can do and the amount of protection he provides to the backfield is insane. It got to a point during mine and Lane's last matchup that while we were playing this, he looked over there, he's like, I'm not even going to bother shooting at him. Once he dropped off lone operative and he could have shot him, he's like, why do I bother? First of all, he's got a toughness of 8. So his artillery that could hit him, that strength 4, is swooning him on 6s. Only to have me have a 2-up save. He's shooting, oh no, I get a cover or whatever else, and whatever else buff. Maybe I'm on a 3-up. Then a 4-up, feel no pain. And then I'm going to heal wound. What if you only do a little bit of chip damage? I'm going to heal it back because of reanimation protocols. And then if all that goes through and everything goes well for Lane and he killed him and he put him on his butt, I had a command point sitting right there just to resurrect him and just go, okay, boop, stands back up with half his wounds and then goes into my turn. Oh, reanimation protocols, boop, here, give me D3 more back. He's such a sponge. He's so good. He's so good. He's so cool. Now, I am talking him very highly. Does that mean that everyone needs to go run out, get a Szeras, get him painted, get him in your list, and play him right now? No. Because he still takes a very specific list. If you have a single squad of Necron warriors, you're not really going to get the effectiveness of Szeras. You need to have multiple battle line units. If you're not running an army with battle line units, then you are spending a lot more on this guy who really isn't going to bring that much extra to your army. Yes, he's a beat stick by himself. Yes, he's very tough and very strong by himself. But he's not going to bring to the table what you're trying to get out of him for 220 points versus what he's going to bring on the table with the Necron warriors and immortals that are added in there. My recommendation is you run Szeras and at least two 20-man bricks of warriors, 4 squads of immortals, whether you want to do 5-mans or 10-mans. I'd say a minimal of like 30 immortals, 40 warriors. And I'm not saying together. I'm saying if you're running like an immortal bricks and immortal spam, you want to at least have him supporting around like 30 immortals. And if you're doing warriors, you want him to at least support about 40 warriors. Otherwise, you're really not getting the value out of his ability because your opponent can hit the warriors and just keep hitting them. And even though he's going to reduce the AP by 1 for that one squad, it's still going to start to depreciate really, really quick. Also, your opponent could ignore that single Necron warrior squad and Szeras, and now you're looking at about 500 points given the crypteks that you have in there, plus Szeras, plus the warriors. You got about 500, maybe pushing 600 points of unit that is just not interacting with your opponent as well. And then if you choose to veil those Necron warriors to give them a spot, well, now they're completely away from Szeras and not doing anything. With having the 2 squads, it allows you to have one squad that's able to be slow and treacherous and another squad that's able to monolith or Chronomancer move up or Veil to get into that higher position while still utilizing Xeris' ability later into the game. And it also, Xeris allows you to protect that unit to be able to mount that offensive strategy later into it. Immortals, the reason I say about 30 of them, like probably 3 10-mans, is because it is a 10-man. And that's going to be a lot easier for your opponent to take down. They don't reanimate as well as warriors do, but they have a higher toughness and that 3-up save. The 3-up save, combined with the ease of cover that you can get in the game, on top of armor contempt, can make the immortals really, really tough to move. But once again, not the same reanimation buffs that we're seeing off other units. And when you start looking at like, okay, I could throw Crypto Thralls in there. I can throw a Technomancer into there to get the Feel No Pain. Yes, all that stuff sounds great and cool. And I agree. And that's exactly like with going over an Immortals, that's some of the stuff that I'm going to consider with an Immortal build. I like the Warriors right now, but I want to try out an Immortal build around Xeris. And I do see all the same stuff. Again, if you're not putting the Crypto Thralls in Warriors, yeah, put the Crypt Thralls into the into your Immortals, and you have that extra little wound sinks to take damage on, and yeah, I think that's a great combination. I think that'll work amazingly. But if you're trying to splash both, if you're trying to go Warriors, Immortals, and all this other stuff, you're going to run out of some of the resources, the critical resources, to make the or the Immortals defensive enough to still be able to handle, to utilize Xeris' buff. Because again, it's only 10 guys, and 10 guys are a little bit easier to pick up. So that's it for this series, guys. Whew. You can tell I'm very high on Xeris. I think he is great. I think that I'm very happy. It was a surprise, kind of, because they went and produced a new model last edition, and he really wasn't that good. Like, it was seriously, you could buy 2 Technomancers for the cost of Xeris, and technically get more rights of reanimation off of 2 Technomancers versus Xeris. It was just like, the only time, I think there was one, like I said, I've said it a couple times, there's one brief moment in history where Xeris was overpowered. And that was when we started to look at core, when the core chain shift and reanimation protocols and all that. There was a brief pre-errata, pre-FAQ time that, rules as written, you could resurrect the rocks for the Silent King. And the only way you could do it was if you took a Xeric Dynasty Technomancer or Illuminor Szeras, because he was a dynastic agent, so therefore he didn't have a dynasty. So there was like a very, 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 very tiny moment in time where Xeris was a little OP because of what he was able to do with his interactions with the Silent King. And literally that window of time was, that was as quick as you could open that window. It got slammed back shut, where everyone's like, hold on, no, wait a minute. And TO's left, right, center said, no, you are not resurrecting the rocks with Xeris. And for those who may have wondered and thought, oh, it might have been people just whining and thinking it was too powerful and overpowered, what it really came down to, it wasn't that resurrecting the rocks were too powerful. There was a rule interaction that was very, very difficult. And that's sometimes we got to look at with this, and some food for thought in the end. It's not necessarily like, oh, why can't we have nice things? Sometimes the way the rules end up happening causes some poor rule interactions. And the rule interaction that I'm talking about with this, which was from 9th edition, was you had to take wounds on a model that already had wounds on it. If you destroyed both of the rocks and did 1 or 2 wounds to Xeric himself, and you then resurrected a rock, well, Xeric says the rock takes damage first over at any time that he would be dealt damage. But rules as written say if a model has damage, that model has to continue taking the damage until it is destroyed. That one was kind of a, so which do we go with? Which happens here? Which goes first? And that was really what caused the very difficulty for the rule interactions. Now where we're at now with characters and how they take damage in that sense, you can do damage to characters through precision, but the damage still has to go to the bodyguard unit before the character takes damage in non-precision situations. And because we have rules that cover that, we now can have models in units that have some damage on them while the unit is still taking damage. All right, so that finishes off the crypteks. I'm not sure which one I want to jump into next. It's either going to be the flyers. I'm thinking either the flyers or going over the rest of the characters of the Necron dynasties, or starting to go into my personal love favorites, the cryptek units. Let me know in the comments section down below which one you guys want to see first, the planes, the mains, or the bugs. Because there's I mean, for me, I have no problem talking about some bugs, some spiders, some scarabs, and stuff like that. But there's been some whispers through a couple of things and some people that are like, well, what do you think of the Night Scythe? What do you think of the Night Scythe coming on the table? What do you think of the Doom Scythe with its points and everything? And I'm just waiting to sit down and start going through them and actually put them on the table and see what we can work out. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you again soon.